Hi students, in this video we're going over CLT exam practice test number 2. Number 81. A biologist is studying a population of chimpanzees in wildlife preserve. There are 16 chimpanzees in the population, comprised of 7 male chimpanzees and 9 female chimpanzees. One day, 6 male chimpanzees are taken for routine veterinary procedures. If the biologist were to select one of the remaining chimpanzees at random, what is the percent chance that the chimpanzee would be female? Pause the video and take a moment to do this question on your own. Okay, now some recommendations for questions. Whenever I see that there's more than one type of category or item mentioned, I like to highlight the different categories. So I see that there's 7 male chimpanzees and 9 female chimpanzees. Another important source of information is that 6 male chimpanzees are taken for routine procedures. So they're taken out of the pack. And then let's focus in on the question. If the biologist were to select one of the remaining chimpanzees at random, so the word at random is a clue that this question has to do with probability, the chances of something happening. And then we're asked, what is the percent chance, again, that's another clue that this is a probability question, that the chimpanzee would be female. So what are the chances that we randomly select a female chimpanzee? So now, off the bat, we can see there's more female chimpanzees than male chimpanzees. And then on top of that, 6 of the male chimpanzees are removed from the pack. So the chances of selecting a female chimpanzee are greater simply because there's more female chimpanzees. So just based off of that logic, we can eliminate 7% and 10% because those are low percentages and there's more females than males. Okay, now anytime you're dealing with probability, you're going to see keywords like random or chances or even the word percent. Okay. So with probability, you form a fraction. The denominator is usually the total, and the numerator is the number of items or persons, whatever it is that you're selecting, marbles, it could be any type of item you select. So in this case, we want to select a female out of the remaining chimpanzees. There was 16 total, but 6 males were removed, so now the total is 10. And on the numerator, we put the items that we want to select at random. The question is asking us to select at random females. There's 9. So there's a 9 out of 10 chance that we get a female. If we 9 out of 10, if we multiply the denominator and the numerator by 10 out of 100, which will help us to calculate percent, we'll see that it's 90 out of 100 or 90%. Okay, let's go to the next question. Number 82. A mother buys 2 types of shirts for her son, red shirts and blue shirts. Before she goes shopping, the ratio of red to blue shirts in the son's closet is 11 to 14. I'm going to, like we did in the previous problem, I'm going to go ahead and highlight the red shirts and the blue shirts and the word ratio. Those are things that giving us a clue as to what this question is about. They give us the ratios 11 to 14. What that ratio means is that for every 11 red shirts, there is 14 blue shirts. They mentioned the ratio is red to blue, so that means 11 goes with the red and 14 goes with the blue. She buys 2 new red shirts. So now there's more red shirts. If there's 2 new red shirts, now there's 13 red shirts. And 4 new blue shirts, so now there's 18 blue shirts. When she adds these to her son's closet, What is the new ratio of red to blue? Okay, so the ratio was 11 to 14, but we added shirts. Now, if the closet had exactly 11 red shirts and exactly 14 blue shirts, then the ratio would change to 13 to 18, and the answer would be C. However, a ratio is not the same as total. When you are given a ratio, you actually don't know what the total is. The only information we know is that for every 11 red shirts, there are 14 blue shirts, but there could be more than 11. It just means for every 11. So there could be another 11 and another 14. That means in the closet there could be 22 red shirts and 28 blue shirts. There could be tons of shirts. We just know that for every 11 red, there's 14 blue. So if I add 2 new red shirts and 4 new blue shirts, it doesn't change the ratio the way we think it's going to change the ratio. It's not like for every 13, now there's 18, because we only added 2 new and 4 new. So the answer here is it is impossible to determine from the given information. We would need to know how many total shirts there are. Because let's say the total was 22 and 28. If I add 2 new red shirts to that and 4 new blue, then my ratio would be 24 to 32. 24 to 32 simplifies to 12. If I divide by 2, 12 to 16, I can divide by 2 again. 6 to 8, 3 to 4. 3 to 4 is different. That's A, right? So we can't have A and C as a correct answer. So we don't know. It's impossible to determine because in order to determine a new ratio, we would need to know the total number of shirts. Let's go to number 83. You can pause it and try it on your own first, and then press play to see the answer. How many numbers between 1 and 100 inclusive meet both of the conditions given in the statement below? Okay, the word inclusive means we're going to include 1 and 100. Statement number 1, the number has factors 5 and 10, and the number is divisible by 4. So how many numbers between a 1 and 100 have factors of 5 and 10? So that means they can be divided by 5 and 10. And the number also has to be divisible by 4. In other words, we're looking for numbers that can be divided by 5, 10, and 4. The word factors means numbers that multiply to make that number, or a reverse way to say that is numbers that divide a number, and then divisible obviously is basically these two words mean the same thing in this case. So if a number is divisible by 5 and 10, it means it has to end in 0. So now we need to think, is there a number that can be divided by 4 and ends in 0? I can think of 40. 40 is divisible by 10, 5, and 4. 60. 15 times 4 is 60. So we got 40, we got 60. 20. 20 divided by 5 is 4. 20 divided by 10 is 2. 20 divided by 4 is 5. Okay, 80. I'm counting by tens because if it's divisible by 10, it has to be a multiple of 10. So 80 works. 90 is divisible by 5 and 10, but not 4. 100. So that's 5 numbers. Okay, number 84. What are the solutions to the equation. So we don't want to use fractions right now. They gave us whole numbers. Let's use some whole numbers. So we always, if you're trying to guess an answer, start with B or C. So I'm going to plug in -2 to see if -2 works. So 3, instead of writing x, we're going to put parentheses -2 to the second power plus 2 times -2 minus 8. Okay, we have to do order of operations. PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So first we do this. -2 to the second power means -2 times -2. That's positive 4. Plus, we multiply 2 times -2. That's -4 minus 8. This becomes 12. 3 times 4 plus -4 minus 8. That becomes 12 plus -4 is the same thing as saying 12 minus 4, which is 8. And 8 minus 8 is 0. So -2 is an answer. If -2 works and there's no other answer choice that has -2, that means 4/3 also works and B is the answer. Okay, number 85. Line Q is perpendicular. There's a vocabulary word. Perpendicular to y equals -2x plus 6 and contains the point 4, 3. What is the x-intercept of line Q? So they did not give us the equation for line Q. So number one, that's missing, right? The equation. They gave us a different equation. But line Q is perpendicular, so we could figure out the equation based off of the given information. So perpendicular lines have a slope that is opposite reciprocal. So if the slope is, in this case, -2, the slope is the number in front of x, the slope is -2, okay? Or we can write it as -2/1. The perpendicular slope is going to be opposite, so it'll be positive, and reciprocal, so we flip the fraction. So 1/2 is our new slope. Perpendicular lines form a right angle. So their slopes are opposite. They're going in different directions. So if this slope is -2, this slope has to be 1/2. That's how they form that T shape and form a 90-degree angle. So our new equation is going to be y equals positive 1/2 x plus, but we're missing the new y-intercept. So we need a new y-intercept, but they gave us a point 4, 3. So we have to plug that in. So 4, 3, that's xy. So we're going to plug in 3 for y and 4 for x and solve for b. This becomes 3 equals 1/2 times 4. That's like saying half of 4. That's just 2 plus b. To get b by itself, we have to subtract 2 to both sides. So we get b equals 1. So now the equation is y equals 1/2 x plus 1. Okay, that's our equation. Now, we can use that equation to find the x-intercept. So y equals 1/2 x plus 1. The x-intercept, to find the x-intercept, you make y equal to 0. So we're going to make y equal to 0 and solve for x. So we subtract 1 from both sides. We get -1 equals 1/2 x. To get x by itself, we have to multiply both sides by 2/1. That cancels the half. And we get x equals -2. 2/1 is just 2. Times -1 is -2. So that's our x-intercept, -2. So that's A. Now, to be able to do that problem, you need to know about parallel and perpendicular lines. And what you need to remember of that is that parallel lines have the same slope, and perpendicular lines have the slope is opposite, reciprocal. Okay? So the slope is the number in front of x. So if it's the same slope, you form an equation with the same slope. If it's perpendicular, you have to make the slope opposite and flip the fraction. Okay, so number 86. For a triangle with two angles measuring 45, which of the following must be false? Okay, so triangles have to have angles that add up to 180. So if a triangle has two angles that are 45, that's already 90 degrees. That means the third angle has to be 90 degrees. So this is actually a right triangle. And since two of the angles are the same, two of the sides have to be the same. So it's isosceles. Isosceles triangles are triangles that have two sides that are the same. Okay, so it is a right triangle. That's true. Two legs of the triangle are equal in length. Yep, that's true because it's isosceles. If two angles are the same, then two sides have to be the same. The hypotenuse of the triangle is longer than the two sides. Hypotenuse is that side across the 90-degree angle. And yes, it is longer than the two sides. So there's a property in, if you go back to your formula sheet, it shows that on a 45, 45, 90 triangle, if the sides are the same, let's say the sides are 5 and 5, the longest side, the hypotenuse, is going to be 5 square root of 2. So it's a little bit longer, and that's true. D, all three angles are acute. Well, that's false. So that would be the answer. All three angles are not acute. One of the angles is 90, so it's a right triangle. Okay, number 87. If circle with a little square, that little symbol, is defined such that P cross Q is P to the third divided by Q plus 5, then which of the following must be equivalent to 3 cross 9? So we did this in class. You just follow the formula. 3 is in front of the little circle with the square, so that means P equals 3. Q is equal to 9 because it's in the same spot. It's after the little cross circle thingy. And then we just take these numbers and plug it into the formula. So instead of writing P to the third over Q plus 5, we're going to do 3 to the third over 9 plus 5. 3 to the power of 3, 3 times 3 is 9, times another 3 is 27. 27 divided by 9 plus 5. 27 divided by 9 is 3, plus 5 is 8. Okay, number 88. If W is an even integer, then which of the following is odd? Okay, vocabulary, integer. Integer means that it can't be a fraction or a decimal. It has to be a whole number, and it has to be even. So like 2, 4, 6, 8. It says, which of the following is odd? Well, all the answer choices are variables. They didn't give us an actual number. All the answer choices have variables, so we can pick our own number. Just pick any number to test. Any number that's even and that's an integer. So I'm going to pick 2. And then I'm going to say, okay, let me plug in 2 to each answer choice and see which one gives me an odd result. Okay, 25 times 2 is 50. That's even. Any number that ends in 0 is even. 2 to the third power is 2 times 2 times 2. That's 8. That's also even. 2 to the fifth power minus 1. Let's check it out. 2 times 2 times 2 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 2's minus 1. That's 4. 2 times 2. This is also 4. So 4 times 4 is 16 times 2 32 minus 1, that's 31. That's odd. So it looks like C is the answer. Let's just double check the last one. 3 times 2 to the second plus 8. 2 to the second is 4. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 8 is 20. That's even. So the answer was C. Okay, number 89. Which of the following is equivalent to the absolute value of 3x minus 5 greater than 7? All right, absolute value makes numbers positive. Let's just use the answer choices to find what makes the statement true. Let's try B or C first. I'm gonna do B. X has to be greater than 4, or X is less than negative 2/3. So let's pick a number greater than 4. So I'm gonna pick 5 and see if it works. 3 times 5 minus 5 greater than 7, right? I could use a dot or I could use a parentheses for multiplication. So this is 15 minus 5. That's 10 absolute value. So is 10 greater than 7? Yep, that's true. So x greater than 4 works. Let's check though. X value is less than negative 2/3. So a number less than negative 2/3. If you look at the number line, you got 0, negative 1. Negative 2/3 is right before negative 1. How do I know? Because negative 3 over 3 is negative 1. So negative 2 over 3 would be right before negative 1. So a number less than that would be negative 1. The farther you go from 0, the smaller the number is. So let's pick x negative 1 and see if that works. 3 times negative 1 minus 5. Let's check if it's greater than 7. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3 minus 5. Negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. But since we have absolute value, it becomes positive 8. And that is greater than 7. So both of those are true. So the answer is B. We happen to find the right answer on the first try. But let's say you had tried a different answer choice. Let's see what it looks like for other answer choices. Let's say if we would have tried x equals 4. 3 times 4 minus 5 greater than 7. 12 minus 5 greater than 7. This is 7. 7 is not greater than 7. 7 is equal to 7. Okay? You just have to be careful with the symbols, okay, to understand. I had said in class, think greater is to the right. So the little arrow points to the right. Less than is to the left. The little arrow points to the left. So since this points to the right, it's greater than. Okay? Also, if you would have picked D, you would have to pick a number between negative 2/3 and 4. So like 0. You could have plugged in 0. Let's do that really quick before we move on. Anytime you try to find, if you have to try to find a number between a negative and a positive, always pick 0. Because 0 is between any negative and positive number. So if I plug in 0, it's 3 times 0 minus 5. 3 times 0 is just 0. 0 minus 5. 0 minus 5 is negative 5. But since we have the absolute value, it becomes positive. 5 is not greater than 7. That's a false statement. So that one's incorrect. So as you can see, the answer choice was B. All right, next question, 90. A flower shop always chooses a different type of flower at random. Okay, that stands out, random, to feature in front of the display, in the front display case. The shop sells 22 different flowers in total, so they gave us a total, 22 flowers in total, including roses. If the store is out of stock of sunflowers and orchids, then what is the chance that the shop will feature roses in the display case? So what are the chances? So this is a probability question like the one we did before. Probability. How do I know it's probability? Because it has words like random and what are the chances of picking something. So when it comes to probability, we need a total in the denominator. And in the numerator, we need to put like what we're trying to select. In this case, we want to select roses. So there's 22 different types of flowers, right? So the denominator seems like it would be 22, but there's some flowers that are missing. They're out of stock of sunflowers and orchids. So there's really only 20 total flowers to pick from. And roses is one of those types of flowers. So we're looking at 1 out of 20. So now we need to figure out what percentage is 1 out of 20. Well, we want the denominator to actually become 100 because then it'll show us the percentage. Percentages are always out of 100. For 20 to become 100, we need to multiply by 5. So we multiply the numerator and denominator by 5. 5 out of 100, that's 5%. Anytime you want to turn a fraction into a percent, make the denominator become 100 through multiplication or division. Okay. Which point satisfy the following equation? All right, so this is a system of equations. Satisfy means which makes it true. So we can plug in the answer choices and see which one makes it true. Always start with B or C. I'm going to start with C because I want to not mess with the negative numbers just yet. So I'm going to test 3, 1. So that means I'm going to make x equal to 3 and y equal to 1. And I'm going to see if that makes a true statement. So let's try this equation. So y is equal to 1 and x is equal to 3. We're going to check if that works. 1 equals 6 minus 5. That's a true statement. 1 does equal 1. But we have to try both, right? So now we're going to go to the next one. Y equals x squared minus 13. Well, y is equal to 1 and x is equal to 3. 1 equals 9 minus 13. 9 minus 13 is a negative number. That's negative 4. That does not equal 1. So it doesn't work for both, so that means C cannot be the answer. Okay, let's try B. So I'm going to try 4, 3. See if that works. I'm going to make x equal to 4 and y equal to 3. Let's try the top equation. 3 equals 2 times 4 minus 5. That's 3 equals 8 minus 5. 3 equals 8 minus 5 is 3. That works. Let's try the other one. Y equals x squared minus 13. Let's plug in 3 for y, 4 for x. 4 times 4 is 16 minus 13. 3 equals 3. That's true. It worked for both. So B is the answer. I don't need to check negative 2, negative 9 because 4, 3 works. Okay, which of the following has the greatest slope? Okay, slope is rise over run if you have a graph, or the formula y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Okay, it says a line with y-intercept of 1 and passes through the point 2, 3. Well, let's visualize that. If the y-intercept is 1, and then the other point is 2, 3 right here. The rise would be 1, 2, and the run would be 1, 2. So here it's 2 over 2, which is the slope is 1. Answer choice B, we can label our coordinates. And then we do the formula, the slope formula. y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Negative 2 minus negative 5 divided by 1 minus 0. That is positive 3 over 1. That's just 3. Okay, let's check the next one. A line with an x-intercept of -1 that passes through 3, 20. The x-intercept is -1, so right here. And it passes through 3, 20. That's like all the way up here, so it goes like that. X-intercept means that x is -1 and y is 0. 3, 20. Okay, so we can actually do the slope formula. x1, y1, x2, y2. By the way, for this one, instead of graphing, we could have also done, if the y-intercept's 1, we could have done 0, 1, 2, 3, and use the formula. Okay, let's use the formula. 20 minus 0 divided by 3 minus -1. That's 20 over 4, because these turn into plus. That's 5. So far, that looks like it has the greatest slope. D, a line with x-intercept of -2, so it's -2, 0. And y-intercept of 8, so 0, 8. x1, y1, x2, y2. So that's 8 minus 0. I'm doing these two. Divided by 0 minus -2. That's 8 over 2, which is 4. So your answer is C. For a number, 92 is all about slope using this formula. And you can use that formula when you have two ordered pairs. The tricky part about this question is that they didn't give you two ordered pairs for every answer choice, only for B. So answer choice B was kind of like they gave you the ordered pairs, you could just label them and use the formula. For the other ones, they didn't give you the two ordered pairs, but you can form the ordered pairs. You just have to know that y-intercept, x is 0, and y is the intercept. For x-intercept, you make y equal to 0. Okay, so something to keep in mind for x-intercepts, you always make y equal to 0. So it'll be like x comma 0. For y-intercepts, you always make x equal to 0. So 0 comma y. Alrighty. Number 93. In the figure below, measure of angle A is equal to measure of angle F. AB is equal to DF. That's why they have these tick marks and the angle markings right here. Okay. Angle ACB, so ACB, this angle right here, and DCF are vertical angles. They're across from each other. By the way, vertical angles are congruent. So this angle is equal to this angle. If the measure of angle B is equal to the measure of angle F plus 35 degrees, let's label that. This is the measure of angle, whatever F is, plus 35 degrees. And the measure of angle ACB is 45. So that means this one's also 45. Then what is the measure of angle D? So we want to find this one. Okay. Okay, so we don't know what A is, so we're going to put X. So that means F is also X. So that means this is X. So if we look at just this triangle right here, it's X. This one is X plus 35, and this one's 45. All three angles have to add up to 180. So that's 2x plus 80 equals 180. Subtract 80 from both sides. 2x equals 100. X equals 50 if you divide both sides by 2. So that means this angle is 50 right here. Well, these three angles have to add up to 180. 45 plus 50 is 95. So we can subtract from 180 to figure out angle D. So 180 minus 95, 85 degrees, B.